Hello everyone, I'm Jason Shad of SSI Racing Team, and today we are going to do a little review on a brand new mod that was just released a few days ago by ASR Formula. Now ASR Formula is actually a very cool group of modders for Assetto Corsa, R Factor, and I believe Automobilista, but don't quote me on that. I know for a fact that they do R Factor 2 as well as Assetto. This will be a review for the Assetto Corsa Fondmetal F1 car from 1991. I've driven virtually all of their 1991 pack race cars that they are in development with, and the full release has been out for probably a little over a year. So I haven't done a review on them, but this will be the first review that I've done, simply because the other vehicles were having a little bit of difficulty as it relates to the shifting. You know, it just, you miss a shift and the gearbox fails. And literally, it was just too sensitive. Very cool. Other than that, very nice in terms of the sound quality, spot on. The feedback, very good. The handling characteristics, very close, in my opinion. And the graphic rendering, all of those things were really good. It's just you miss one shift, you got to start over. So just loaded this up. Didn't do any kind of fiddling around with anything. It's basically a default setup, and we're just going to kind of see how does this thing feel. Did they correct the shifting issue with this vehicle? And if they did, fantastic. Hopefully they figured it out for all the cars. So let's just go ahead and come right out of the pits. I have it on hot laps. I just fiddled with the gear ratio just to make sure. I know that we have a really long straight, and without further ado, let's get going. Oh yeah, that sounds nice. That does sound really nice. Okay. So the field of view looks pretty good. The frames per second is pretty good at 56. I do feel a little high up in the cockpit, but if I lower it down anymore, I'm going to have difficulty seeing over this. So let's just kind of leave it where it is now. For those of you who have been watching the videos, you understand that we have a Ritmotech hydraulic with their Pro Gear GT1 pedal package, which is essentially a hydraulic brake with several different bushing sets that will change the stiffness. I have it on about 75-pound stiffness right now, so not super stiff, but kind of stiff. But the clutch is pneumatic. It's an air pump that's inside, and there must be a leak, so we have to pump it a little bit just to get it to start. Doesn't seem to have problems with upshifting and downshifting. It's just from coming from a dead start. Feel the bumps, I can feel the curve there. Wow, that engine sounds pretty smooth. Okay. Oh yeah, that engine sounds really nice. The sound quality is very good indeed. Tires, straight to second, skipping a gear there. So the really cool thing about ASR Formula as it relates to the vintage cars is You have to drive it with the H pattern to really get, well, you don't have to, but you really do. It doesn't perform right if you try to use the paddle shifter. So you have to use the H pattern, heel and toe downshift to match the revs. Which for us as a driving school and a driver development program is what we're always pursuing, because it's part of our curriculum. Okay, I got a warning indication there. Now I have the indicator showing yellow for the gearbox. I missed the shift slightly there. So let's see if this gearbox can go through the paces. Especially in an F1 car where you're shifting very quickly. You could just very easily miss a shift. Alright, let's see what kind of top speed we have down this straightaway, whereas the top teams I know are reaching close to 200. Not even close. So right away, I'm feeling like this car is nowhere near as energetic as some of the other cars, the McLaren, the Brabham, the Minardi. Feels much smoother. A little more forgiving, I think. Got some massive understeer there, which is probably the way it would have been in the real world, since this was a backmarker team. So this team was of the day and age where more teams would show up to an F1 event in the 80s and 90s that could be accommodated on the grid. So they would have to go through a pre-qualifying sequence for the smaller teams to see who can actually qualify for the event. And this was one of those teams. They took over the engine from the former Tyrrell Cosworth V8. Yeah, I got another yellow there for the gearbox. This car, they figured it out. They figured out how to resolve the gearbox issue. I wish they could resolve it for the other cars with some kind of update. Gabriella Tarquini was one of the drivers for this particular team. I always find that interesting in the sense that these teams had a fraction of the budget of the larger teams, much like today, but they're still able to put a F1 car on the grid. Whoops. Really close to that curve there. So the good news is they've got this to a point where the physics engine for the tires and the tire model were very good to deliver the information to the wheel, which is one of the things that I like about Assetto a lot, is we're always seeking maximum information from the wheel, since you don't have any motion or accurate motion that can be provided to you without spending about $40,000-$50,000 for an accurate motion system. So our job is to look for the mods that can give us a satisfactory version of force feedback that will enable us to do our training for the real world. We are not gamers. I wish we were. And I do game a little bit. But our agenda is always to replicate the real world as much as possible for all our customers. This is a car I will probably look at a little bit deeper to see if there's some benefit that we can use it for. Now that they've resolved that shifting issue, I'm very excited. It is very drivable. It seems tunable. I mean, I didn't really do that much tuning anyway, so optimizing the setup should probably be pretty close to what I would get in a real car. Alright, so I tried to exit that corner as cleanly as possible, got on the power as early as possible to see what kind of top speed we saw. So I'm sorry I missed it a little bit there. We can review it later in the video. See that little counter steer there? In some of the other mods, it was a little more difficult to feel it and anticipate that. Start picking up the pace a little bit here. Boy, I accidentally went in first. We need to up second gear a little bit. Too aggressive with the power. Whoa. Okay. Wow. Very satisfied with this car. Yes. They resolved the shifting. It looks like they resolved some of the feedback as well. And overall, I give this car a pretty good rating. You know, I haven't dove that deep into it. I haven't got into a competitive package. So we're not really driving at the limit of what it's capable of. And that'll kind of really determine whether or not this car is going to be something worth looking into for our training program. But the fact that they've resolved the shifting issue is encouraging for us because we want to race this in a series as well. And to replicate the 1991 season would be something that would be very exciting for us. So thank you for watching. Take care, and we'll see you next time in another review.